My heart trembles as I write to you, my beloved, for each word I craft feels like a secret I dare not speak aloud. The halls of the palace echo with my longing, yet they cannot contain the storm that dances within me whenever your name brushes against my lips, leaving a fevered trail of both fear and desire. In the quiet moments when the world sleeps, I find myself wandering along the balconies, staring at the silvered moonlight, imagining your eyes reflecting that same glow, wondering if you too feel the tug of a connection that seems to bind our souls beyond reason, beyond the crown I bear. There is a subtle ache in my chest, a hunger that no feast or festival can satisfy, a need that only your presence can soothe. I count the minutes until I hear your voice. Yet even then, a part of me recoils in hesitation, fearful that my yearning will betray the composure demanded of a princess. Sometimes I dream of you in secret, dressed in armor not of steel but of light, moving through gardens where roses whisper your name with each petal. The dream lingers long after dawn, leaving me restless, tracing your phantom fingers across my skin, as if they were real. I have discovered a bravery within myself I never knew existed, not in matters of state or ceremony, but in love, where the heart dares more than the mind permits, and yet, with each daring thought, the suspense tightens around me like a cloak I cannot remove, hiding my confession from those who would judge. There are moments when I see you across the hall, and the air seems to catch fire, invisible sparks dancing between us, dangerous and exquisite, and I feel simultaneously empowered and fragile, like a glass orb ready to shatter under the slightest pressure of my own emotions. Oh, how cruel fate can be, to place us in the same orbit yet compel us to maintain distance, to smile politely while my soul screams for closeness, for the intimacy of a hand held in the quiet dark, for the warmth of your breath mingling with mine, in a secret sanctuary that exists nowhere but in our hearts. I often imagine confessing my feelings in the dead of night, when the world slumbers, and the moon keeps our secret vigil. Yet even in these imaginings, suspense lingers, as if the universe itself holds its breath, wondering whether our love is courage or folly. When you speak to me, even of trivialities, your voice lingers like a sweet poison, intoxicating and maddening all at once. I listen, enraptured, measuring each pause, each glance, wondering if the spark I feel is mirrored in your own gaze, or if it exists only in the lonely chambers of my imagination. Every gift you bestow, no matter how small, carries the weight of unspoken emotion. I clutch them to my chest in secret, imagining your hands had lingered longer than propriety allowed, and my heart swells with a mixture of triumph and dread, uncertain whether I dare to hope. There are nights when I pace the corridors, restless, replaying every moment we have shared, dissecting each gesture for hidden meaning, each smile for concealed passion, and in this analysis, suspense becomes a cruel companion, teasing me with glimpses of a love that may or may not be returned. I have begun to write letters I will never send, spilling my heart in ink, letting my desires bleed across the page. Imagining your eyes reading them, feeling the shiver of anticipation, as if the parchment itself could carry my soul directly to you, unbound by palace walls or expectations. Sometimes I catch myself imagining a life apart from the responsibilities of crown and ceremony, where you and I could exist in a quiet world of shared secrets, laughter, and longing. Yet even in such fantasies, the suspense persists, whispering that such freedom may be nothing more than a cruel illusion. My dreams have grown restless, haunted by the shadow of what might be. I see you reaching for me, and yet there is always a barrier, a veil of duty, a whisper of fear, that keeps us tantalizingly close, yet impossibly distant, and the edge of that space gnaws at my very being. I have begun to notice the smallest details of you. The tilt of your head, the cadence of your laughter, the way your fingers brush against a table or a railing. And each detail becomes a thread I cling to, weaving a tapestry of longing, suspense, and devotion that only I can see. There is a quiet power in anticipation, a dangerous sweetness in the uncertainty of your feelings. It torments me, drives me wild with hope and terror, and I find myself daring to imagine moments of intimacy that I cannot yet claim, suspended between desire and decorum. I confess, in the solitude of my chambers, to speaking your name aloud, a trembling whisper, meant only for the walls and the moon. It feels like a forbidden spell, a magic that binds my heart to yours, though I do not yet know whether the enchantment is mutual or solitary. I watch the courtiers and nobles around us, noting the ease with which they navigate life and affection, and wonder why ours must be so charged with tension, so laced with suspense, as if our hearts recognize each other's truth long before our lips dare admit it. My hands grow restless, craving your touch. Yet when it comes close I retreat, caught between the desire to surrender and the fear of losing control. This tension becomes a rhythm of its own, a dance of longing that neither of us can fully orchestrate. There are evenings when I imagine whispering to you beneath the chandeliers, letting my fingers trace the lines of your face, feeling the pulse of your heart against my palm, and yet the suspense, an invisible guardian, keeps me poised, alert, and achingly restrained. Every time our gazes meet, I feel the universe pause, a suspended moment pregnant with unspoken confessions. And I wonder if the beating of your heart echoes my own, or if I alone am captive to this dangerous enchantment. My thoughts circle endlessly around you, weaving intricate patterns of possibility and fear. Each memory, each imagined interaction, grows into a story I live repeatedly, savoring the suspense while also longing for its resolution, for a certainty that may never come. I have discovered in myself a courage I did not know I possessed. The courage to love openly, if only in secret, to dare to feel fully, to allow my heart to ache with anticipation, and to hope that one day, that hope may be mirrored in your own gaze. Often, I feel that love itself has become a game, a delicate balance of timing, glances, and subtle gestures, where each unspoken word carries weight, and the suspense of what might come next intoxicates me more than any feast or ceremony ever could. And yet, despite the suspense, despite the ache and longing, I hold on to a fragile joy, the certainty that you exist, that your soul brushes against mine in ways the world cannot see, and that this in itself is my greatest achievement, the proof that love, in all its peril and beauty, has found me. The palace corridors feel different when you are near, as though the air itself shivers in anticipation, carrying whispers of your presence long before I glimpse you. My heartbeat accelerates in ways I cannot control, yet I cannot flee, for every step toward you is a step into the very center of my longing. I have taken to wandering the gardens at dusk, tracing the patterns of roses and fountains, imagining that you walk beside me unseen, that your hand might brush mine in the quiet shadows, and I marvel at the cruel joy of knowing such closeness is possible only in the mind. There are nights when I lie awake, staring at the tapestry of stars, and I dare to believe that each one is a messenger, carrying my heart's secret to you, whispering the confession that my lips cannot speak. And yet, in this belief, suspense coils around me, a serpent that refuses to release. Your laughter reaches me even in distant halls, and it is a melody that unsettles me. Stirring emotions I struggle to name, I am enchanted and apprehensive at once, afraid that the next note might reveal a truth I am not yet prepared to embrace. I wonder if you know the effect you have on me. The way my composure wavers when you appear, the way my thoughts scatter like petals in a storm, the way my heart leaps at the faintest sign of your attention. Yet perhaps you too harbor a secret longing, hidden behind a mask of royal restraint. In my private chambers, I have imagined tracing the lines of your face with my fingertips, memorizing every contour, as though by knowing each curve I might know the depths of your soul. And in these imaginings, suspense and desire merge, a fire that burns softly yet relentlessly. Each day brings new trials of patience, moments where proximity and distance collide, leaving me suspended in a tension I cannot name. To speak, to act, to touch, all feel like risks and rewards entwined, and I delight in the peril even as it tortures me. I have begun to notice the subtle gestures that reveal your feelings. The slight incline of your head, the way your eyes linger, the manner in which your voice softens when speaking to me, and each discovery becomes a spark, illuminating the path of possibility, yet leaving me trembling with uncertainty. Sometimes, I catch myself imagining a life where these games of glances and whispered intentions are unnecessary, where our hearts are free to speak without fear. Yet the suspense of the unknown keeps me enthralled, as if the uncertainty itself is a treasure I cannot relinquish. I have felt the warmth of your hand brush against mine, fleetingly, yet that briefest contact ignites a storm inside me, a hurricane of hope and terror, and I find that even the memory alone is enough to send shivers down my spine. In the stillness of dawn, I watch the sunlight filter through the curtains, imagining it casting patterns upon your face, tracing your expressions in gold and shadow, and I long to be nearer, yet the palace demands decorum, leaving my desire suspended like a bird caught mid-flight. I have begun to write poetry that speaks of you without naming you, filling the margins of my notebooks with lines that tremble with longing, and in doing so, I feel a mixture of triumph and despair, knowing these words carry my heart, even if they may never reach yours. When you glance in my direction, I feel time itself hesitate, the world narrowing to the space between us, and I am caught in a delicious agony, savoring each heartbeat, each flutter, each whisper of possibility that passes unspoken between us. I often wonder if you sense the currents that pull us toward one another, invisible threads woven by fate or desire, the suspense of knowing yet not knowing, of hoping without assurance, is a torment I have learned to cherish, even as it unsettles my every breath. In secret, I have traced your path through the palace, imagining the echoes of your steps as a language, a rhythm that speaks only to my heart, and in these quiet pursuits, I find both courage and a thrilling fear, as if I am trespassing into the sacred territory of longing itself. I have imagined the words I would speak if the world fell silent, if no eyes watched and no duties constrained me, a confession of devotion, a vow of unyielding love, a surrender of heart and soul. Yet the suspense keeps me cautious, preserving the exquisite tension of what might be. Every glance, every brush of your sleeve, every shared smile becomes a universe unto itself, and I become lost in the infinite possibilities contained within a single fleeting moment, suspended between hope and hesitation, caught in the enchantment of our unspoken bond. I have felt the cruel thrill of jealousy, a strange sensation when others are near you, for even the simplest interaction becomes a challenge to my composure, a test of patience, and a reminder of how fiercely my heart claims you even in secrecy. At times, I imagine you reading my mind as I think of you, sensing my desire, my fear, my longing, and I am struck by the thought that perhaps we are bound by more than mere affection, that something deeper, more elemental, ties our hearts together across the silence. I have learned that anticipation can be its own reward, that the waiting, the uncertainty, the tension between what is and what could be, carries a sweetness all its own, and yet, I ache for the moment when anticipation transforms into certainty, into the full embrace of love realized. The nights feel longer when you are absent, each hour stretching endlessly, punctuated only by the memory of your presence. I find myself speaking your name to the stars, hoping that the heavens will carry my devotion to you, and that they, too, might marvel at the suspense we inhabit. I have begun to see you in the most ordinary moments, in the play of candlelight, in the rustle of silk, in the turn of a page, and each instance becomes a revelation, a testament to the power of longing, and to the invisible gravity of the connection that draws us together. Sometimes, I imagine our first true confession, the moment when all restraint dissolves, when words tremble on our lips, and our hearts leap together into the unknown. Even in imagining it, suspense coils around me, a delicious tension that both excites and frightens me. I have felt the delicate torment of unspoken words, the ache of glances that linger too long, the thrill of near touch, and I understand that love, when mingled with restraint and anticipation, becomes a symphony of tension, each note charged with meaning, each pause a heartbeat of suspense. And in all these moments, all these dreams, all these stolen whispers of feeling, I recognize the profound achievement that love has brought me the courage to feel deeply, to hope, to linger on the edge of desire, and to know that even in uncertainty, my heart has found its truth. At last, I feel as though the world has narrowed to the space where you and I exist, a realm defined not by palace walls, but by the rhythm of our hearts, and the suspense that once held me at bay has become a delicate flame, flickering with both fear and hope. I have begun to dream not just of your presence, but of your soul touching mine, of conversations unspoken yet understood, of glances that communicate everything words could never convey, and the thought makes my chest ache with longing and exhilaration. Each time we are near, I notice the subtle ways you mirror me, an inclination of your head, a pause in your step, a fleeting smile, and it feels as though we are bound by invisible threads, strings that pull us closer, even as duty insists we remain apart. I have imagined moments of quiet intimacy, walking together beneath arches of blooming jasmine, the scent of flowers mingling with the warmth of your hand against mine, and the suspense of not yet being able to speak my truth makes the imagined moments burn brighter in my memory. There are times when I catch your gaze and the world tilts, a vertigo of desire and fear sweeping over me. The thought of what might happen if I dared to step closer both terrifies and excites me. A paradox I have come to cherish as my own secret treasure. I have begun to write your name in the margins of my most private thoughts, repeating it like a prayer or a spell, letting it linger on my lips in whispers that no one else hears, and in doing so, I discover that longing itself is a kind of achievement, a proof of the heart's courage. The suspense of our unspoken love has become a constant companion, threading through each moment of my day. Even the smallest interaction carries weight, and I feel my heart leap at gestures that would seem insignificant to anyone else, but to me are electric, alive with possibility. I have felt the exquisite tension of almost touching when our fingers brush, or our hands graze in passing, and the space between us becomes a stage where desire and decorum perform a dance, intricate and thrilling, leaving me both exhilarated and trembling. I imagine whispering secrets to you beneath the silvered moon, my breath mingling with yours, my voice barely audible, yet carrying the weight of everything I cannot yet say aloud. And even in imagination, suspense coils around me like a living thing, both comforting and dangerous. Each word you speak lingers, long after it has left your lips, a melody that echoes in my mind, teasing me with glimpses of what might be. And I find that the waiting, the uncertainty, the tension itself has become a kind of delight, a treasure that I guard closely. I have begun to notice the language of your eyes, the subtle shifts of emotion that speak where words fail, and in those silent exchanges, I feel as though we are sharing a universe that exists only for us, a world suspended in longing and unspoken truths. The anticipation of being near you has become a rhythm of its own, a heartbeat I can feel in every step, every glance, every stolen moment. And I have discovered a courage I never knew I possessed, a courage to hope, to dream, to linger on the edge of intimacy without falling too soon. I have imagined the first moment we might truly confess our feelings, a moment that would shatter the restraint we have both maintained, and in that imagining, suspense rises like a tide, carrying with it the thrilling danger of surrender and the promise of ecstasy. There are times when I feel the world is holding its breath, waiting for us to act, to speak, to touch, and in that suspended space, I find both terror and joy, a delicate balance of emotion that leaves me dizzy, yet fully alive in the presence of you. I have begun to understand that love's greatest achievement is not the possession of another, but the courage to feel fully, to expose one's heart to uncertainty, and to cherish even the tension, the longing, the unspoken confessions, as sacred proof of devotion. Each shared glance, each fleeting brush of your hand, becomes a chapter in an epic written in silence, a story of longing, suspense, and forbidden delight. And I treasure each moment as though it were the most precious jewel in the crown I wear. I have imagined tracing your face with my fingertips, memorizing the curve of your lips, the line of your jaw, the sparkle in your eyes, and even the thought of such closeness sends a shiver of both fear and desire through me, a reminder of how fragile and exquisite our connection is. The nights are alive with possibility, each one stretching endlessly, filled with imagined conversations, whispered confessions, and the tantalizing suspense of what the next day might bring, and I find myself suspended in a kind of joyful torment that only love can create. I have begun to see that our love is a dance between shadow and light, between restraint and surrender, between what is spoken and what remains unspoken, and in this delicate balance, I have discovered a thrill unlike any other, a testament to the power of the heart. Each step toward you feels like both a victory and a risk, and I have learned to savor the tension, to drink in the suspense, to let my heart tremble with both hope and fear. For in this trembling lies the essence of what it means to love so fully. I have imagined the moment when we might finally be free of all obstacles, when our hands might entwine, our lips might meet, and our hearts might speak aloud what has been confined for so long. And even in imagination, the suspense is intoxicating, a fire I cannot extinguish. Every whisper of wind, every play of light across the palace walls, every shadow in the garden seems imbued with your presence, and I feel a constant, delicious tension, as though the world itself conspires to remind me that our love, though restrained, exists in every breath I take. I have come to see that the greatest achievement is not the moment of consummation, but the journey of longing, of suspense, of imagining and daring to hope, for it is in this journey that my heart has discovered courage, passion, and the sweet ache of desire. In the quietest hours, when the world sleeps and only the stars bear witness, I whisper your name into the darkness, letting it travel across the night, carrying my devotion, my longing, and the exquisite suspense that has defined our every encounter. And I feel a triumphant joy in this private truth. And now, as I look upon all that I have felt, all that I have imagined, all that I have dared to hope, I understand that my greatest achievement is not a crown, nor a title, nor a victory in the eyes of the world, but the courage to love, to wait, to dream, and to know that even in suspense, my heart has found its home in you. The morning light feels different now, softer somehow, as if the world itself has shifted since the last moment I glimpsed you. And I carry a secret thrill, a tender ache that tells me our hearts are inching closer, even when duty and distance insist we wait. I wander the corridors, tracing memories of your presence like a map only I can read, each step a reminder of the invisible threads that connect us, trembling with the hope that our next encounter will bring the world into perfect alignment. In the privacy of my chambers, I have begun to speak aloud the words I once whispered only to the moon, rehearsing confessions that would make even the bravest heart flutter, imagining your eyes lighting up in response to each syllable. The suspense is no longer torment alone, it has become a companion, a quiet pulse beneath every glance, every smile, every brush of silk across the floor, a rhythm that reminds me I am alive, that our hearts are alive, bound by a gravity neither of us fully controls. I have begun to notice the way your presence lingers, even in absence. The faint scent of your cologne in the air, the shadow of your hand on the armrest of a chair, the echo of your laughter in my memory, and each trace makes anticipation feel almost tangible. Sometimes I imagine us together in secret, beyond the eyes of the palace, beyond the reach of expectation, where we can speak freely, touch freely, and let the world fall away until only our hearts remain. The suspense of such a dream makes reality feel both cruel and exquisite. I feel my pulse quicken when I hear your name spoken by another, a subtle pang that mixes jealousy and longing, a reminder that the heart's achievement is never simple, that desire and patience are entwined like vines in an eternal garden. At twilight, I find myself walking through the gardens alone, recalling the warmth of your hand, the tilt of your head, the intensity of your gaze, and I wonder if you, too, replay these memories, savoring the same delicious uncertainty that has become my constant companion. I have begun to write letters again, letters that no one will read, letters filled with my heart's secret ache. Imagining your eyes tracing every word, feeling your presence with each stroke of the quill, and delighting in the exquisite torment of suspense. There are moments when I almost reach for you, almost speak, almost surrender entirely to the tide of longing. And then duty reminds me of its relentless grip, leaving me suspended on the edge of possibility, trembling with a mixture of triumph and restraint. I have imagined the first true embrace, a moment when the world narrows to nothing but us, when our hands intertwine, and our hearts speak in the silent language we have cultivated through months of anticipation, and even in thought, my pulse races with exhilaration. The palace seems to conspire with our emotions, every corridor, staircase, and shadow echoing the tension between us, as though the stones themselves understand that our hearts have achieved something beyond sight, beyond ceremony, beyond the ordinary. I have felt a courage swelling inside me, a bravery that grows with each heartbeat, each glance, each stolen moment, teaching me that love's true achievement is not possession, but daring to hope, daring to feel, daring to exist fully in the presence of desire. Sometimes I catch myself smiling at nothing, thinking of you, imagining our hands brushing, imagining your laughter in the quiet of the evening, and I realize that this small, secret joy has become a victory in itself, proof that love's power cannot be contained. I have begun to see the world in shades of anticipation, colors painted by longing, shadows deepened by suspense, light softened by hope, and I feel as though every leaf, every ray of sun, every sigh of wind carries your presence to me, in ways words cannot capture. The nights are alive with possibilities, each hour stretching like a ribbon between us, taut with expectation, and I feel both fragile and invincible, knowing that even in distance, our hearts are in perfect dialogue, speaking in silence louder than any words. I have imagined dancing with you beneath the moonlight, every step a conversation, every glance a confession, every heartbeat a testament to the courage we have nurtured in secret, and the thought leaves me trembling with suspense and delight. The ache of longing has transformed into a kind of quiet triumph, a proof of my heart's endurance, a reminder that love is not always in possession, but in the willingness to wait, to anticipate, to dream, and to feel profoundly at every step of the journey. I have begun to notice the small miracles in our connection, the shared glance, the unspoken reassurance, the subtle echo of your voice in memory. And in these moments, suspense becomes a tender companion, a quiet reminder of the intimacy we cultivate even without contact. Sometimes, I imagine the first whispered confession, a moment when the world fades, and only our hearts remain, speaking the truths that have been locked away too long. And even in this imagining, suspense courses through me like a river, thrilling and unstoppable. I have begun to realize that love is measured not in grand gestures, but in tiny triumphs, a glance that lingers, a hand that almost touches, a letter never sent but written with devotion. And in these small victories, I find the deepest joy. The world outside the palace fades in comparison to the realm our hearts have created, a kingdom of longing, anticipation, and unspoken promise, where suspense itself becomes a crown we wear together, invisible but infinitely precious. I have felt the bittersweet tension of being so close yet so far, a delicate ache that sharpens every emotion, every hope, every dream, and I understand now that this is the true achievement of love, the courage to feel, to anticipate, and to cherish every heartbeat in its presence. At dawn I whisper your name to the rising sun, imagining it carrying my devotion to you across distance and duty. And I feel a triumphant joy, a certainty that even in suspense, even in longing, our hearts have claimed a victory that no circumstance can undo. And now, as I reflect on all that has passed, all that I have felt, and all that is yet to come, I recognize the profound truth that love, in its patient, suspenseful, exquisite form, is my greatest achievement, and you, my beloved, are the heart in which it finds its eternal home.